Welcome to part 2 of an introduction to Scrum and Agile. In part 2 we're going to rerun the example, but instead of using the waterfall approach, we're going to use aspects of Agile framework and Scrum. Okay, so let's rewind the example and start again. In our previous example we met John, the project manager, but now let's meet Jane, who has a new role called product owner. The product owner, as the name suggests, owns something. They don't own the product, that's what the customers will own. But they represent the customer and stakeholders to the development team. They own a list of everything that is known to be needed in the product. We call each item in the list a user story. The overall list is called the product backlog, and Jane, as the product owner, is responsible for this overall list. We will come back to Jane later. Let's now go back to the development team. We can see the teams are neatly in their separate rooms, but instead of having the teams defined by the waterfall and discipline, we're going to create a Scrum team. Okay, here goes. We're going to take a developer from the requirements team, now someone from the testing, and one from implementation. You can see this one is a bit resistant. This is quite normal, and it can take time for people to get used to this way of working. Okay, now we have mixed up the team, and this is what we call our Scrum. The Scrum size and mix can vary, but we should aim for around a maximum of 9 people in one Scrum. So how does the Scrum team work differently to a traditional approach? We have now mixed up the teams, but how are we going to manage the timing since we don't have a project plan? So let's go back to Jane, the product owner, and her list of all the stories that made up the product. Now one of Jane's jobs is to put a priority on the stories and rank them in terms of importance to be developed first. So now Jane's product backlog is ordered in terms of priority. We now have the order we need to do things, but how will we determine how long they will take? We will create time boxes. Each time box will be a month long. The team will put their highest priority user stories in the time box. Each time box should produce a fully functional feature that could potentially be shipped to market. The entire project will be made of these time boxes, each containing a month's worth of user stories. Imagine it's like making a video game when you publish one level at a time. Each level is a standalone product. You may ask, well, how do you know how many user stories you can do in a month? Well, to answer that, let's go back to an old friend. John is back, but we don't have a project manager anymore. How are we going to organize the teams? John is now the team's Scrum Master, and he's fully trained up in his role. John's new role is anything but a master, and instead of dictating to the team tasks, his role is that of a servant leader. He coaches, guides, and protects the team, and ensures the team, or should I say Scrum, keeps within the Scrum and Agile guidelines. Okay, so let's start again. So, as before, Waterfalls of Us have got a new contract with their top customer. Now Jane, the product owner, has talked to all the stakeholders and put together all the customer features requested into user stories, and she's ranked them in order of priority, putting them on the board ready to discuss with the development team. Now Jane will meet with the Scrum team. Jane will explain all the user stories, and the team will have a chance to ask questions and be sure they fully understand each one. Now the Scrum Master's role is to ensure everyone in the development team has an equal voice and ensure the team stay within time. After all, it's a sprint planning meeting, not a marathon planning meeting. Once the team understand the user stories, they need to determine how many user stories can they do in a month. The Scrum Master can help with games and other techniques for the team to determine the size of each user story and fit enough into a 1-month time box. The team uses story points to determine the size and not raw hours. Imagine t-shirt sizes. We don't put all the neck and chest size measurements on the label of a t-shirt. Instead, we use small, medium, large or XL. It's the same with user stories, which must convey the effort in terms of complexity, the amount of work as well as risk, which is why story points are so helpful to the team. Once the team are done, they put only enough user stories in the time box to be developed in a month. Now the cross-functional teams start to get to work. We see the person from requirements talking to design, and with the help of the Scrum Master, the team is self-organizing to meet their target. Working together, they quickly identify the problem in initial design that could lead to more software branches and atoms in the known universe. The team have daily stand-ups of 15 minutes per day where they report their status and roadblocks. They are still using mega tickets, but since they have daily stand-ups and are working closely with each other, they immediately see the problem of missing tickets. It's a minor issue and just encourages them to have more direct contact with each other. Now they have the sprint review with the product owner. They close the user stories, do a demo with the customer who is happy, and they have their first feature to market. It's a small piece of the overall, but it's something the customer can make money from. Now, before doing the second sprint, the stakeholders and customers tell the product owner that if she can change her priority and get out a new set of features, this would give them a competitive advantage. In the next sprint, the product owner simply changes the backlog priorities and the team gets started as before. Now Peter the developer, as in our waterfall story, is a big contributor to the team, but now Peter's boss calls him in the office and tells Peter he has an additional project to do. Peter tells this to the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master goes to Peter's boss and tells him either he has to cancel the sprint or he needs to wait until the next sprint is done and ask this feature to be added to the product backlog of the next one. Peter's boss backs off. It was only a pet project for him and he didn't want to go in front of leadership and ask the product owner to cancel the sprint. On each sprint, the team are doing a retrospective at the end of it and looking what they could do better for next time. They are also producing potentially shippable product on each sprint using a modular and incremental design. All the team members now know each other. They feel trusted by the company to make creative decisions, and each sprint they go out in the evening. Finally, the team are at an end. They just completed their last sprint and demo with the customer. They had some difficulties along the way, but the Scrum framework allowed them quickly to identify issues and correct them before they became bigger problems. At the end of the final delivery, the team get a special reward to travel for a winter break to Norway to relax and party. And they also start thinking about changing the name of the company. So that concludes our second part of Agile and Scrum framework. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.